Welcome to another video in getting to know the Milestone tool. In this video, I'd like to give you a brief overview of how to use the tool from the perspective of a foster parent or a caregiver. So the first thing after you log in, you will notice that you will come to this screen, and the first thing you'll need to do is go up here to the main menu and click on Add New Youth. Once you do that, you'll get the basic form, and I'm going to review some of the input fields here. This is your youth's first initial. Please note that it's not their full name, just their first initial and last initial. If by chance you have a situation where you have two youth and they've got the exact same first and last initial, then what you can do, for example, is in their first initial, use their first initial and the first initial of their middle name. Basically, you just want each of your youth to have a unique first initial and last initial. And if you have to add one extra character to one of these input fields, then that's okay. All right, next is their email address and password, and your youth can use that to log into the platform to review some of the information that you've put in on their behalf. Their file number, you can get that from their CIC worker. And next is their CIC worker. Their age group that they belong to, you can put some comments in here if you'd like. That's completely optional. There's some checkboxes here, and most of these checkboxes here actually will display or hide the related milestones. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in another video in more detail. Some of the other information that you can indicate about their youth, if they may have some disabilities, and some of their other personal information goes in here. And then at the bottom, you've got some places where you can indicate their last medical or dental or optometrist appointments, and the system can give you a gentle reminder a year after those appointments so you can make the next appointment. All right, so once you actually add one or more youth into your profile, when you log in and you're back at the initial screen, you'll have a list of all the youth in your profile here in this drop-down list. And all you have to do is click on one of their initials, one of the youth. And at that point, it activates that particular youth. And now you're in that youth's profile, ready to update their milestones. And if you have more than one youth, you can come back to it, choose a different youth, and again, it will switch to their profile, and now you're updating your other youth's profile. So let's just switch it back to the initial one. And if you click on Edit Profile, it'll take you back to the youth's profile, and maybe you want to update some additional information. So that's how you can do that. I'll talk about this goal date filter in another video in more detail. So at the left side, this is where all the milestones are listed in their respective categories. The first option here allows you to view all the milestones in the system. The second option just shows you the milestones in which you've indicated a goal date. The next one shows you all the milestones that have actually been completed. And next you have all the milestones broken down by the category in which they belong to here. So we're just going to click into education here. You can see all the milestones that are related to the education category. So what you can do is read the milestone and then indicate here the goal date in which you'd like to complete that particular milestone. If you hover over the categories, it will give you some additional information about what these categories are and how to use some of these categories here. So the goal date is basically the date at which you're going to make your best effort to complete that particular milestone. The status is the current status. So for example, if this was brand new and you're just starting out and you look at this particular milestone and you say, hey, you know what, let's try to complete that by December of 2021. And right now you would just mark it as in progress. And then as you complete that particular milestone, you would mark it as complete. And whatever age range your youth happens to be, you can turn on the checkbox behind that particular age range. Now, The age ranges here are A, B, C, and D, and down at the bottom is an actual legend. So A is from 12 to 13, B is 14 to 16, C 16 to 18, and D 19 to 21. And the reason that we did this is so that when you're logged in as a caregiver, let's say, for example, that you have a youth in your care that is currently 16 to 18 years old. And in this particular milestone, they should have obtained this skill at least 12 to 13 years. So if your youth has not even attained this skill, they're in the 16 to 18, but they haven't actually they don't actually have that skill for whatever reason. um, we didn't want to make the youth feel self-conscious that, hey, you know what, I'm an older youth and I can't even do the skill that a 12 to 13-year-old can do. So what we did is hide these age ranges and put it into this legend area so that only you can see it when you're logged in. When your youth is logged in their own account, they will not have access to see this information. So that's just a little bit of a sensitivity feature, and that's why it's listed this way. All right. So, so the shaded area again indicates that you should validate that they have the skill in this age range. And some of these are, like, especially when it comes to education, these are things that need to be done every year, validating certain things as the milestone indicates. Next is the readiness column. So readiness basically indicates if your youth were to, reach the point where they're going into independent living, how ready are they actually to do that based on this particular milestone. The agency has and is continuing to develop uh, a way to measure how ready your youth is to go into independent living. So this is one way that we're approaching that, so that we can take an overall view of the milestones that have a readiness score, and then project whether or not that youth is actually ready to go into independent living, and use that as an indicator as those decisions are being made pertaining to your youth. So that's what the readiness is. Again, I'll talk about a little bit more about that in detail in another video. And in the comment area, if you want to leave a comment regarding this particular milestone, you can click on comments. And so you can put in any comment that you'd like as it pertains to this particular milestone. It could be a challenge that you're having, or it could be a success story. For example, you could indicate, hey, I'm having some difficulty. My youth is struggling a little bit to complete this milestone, and that would be your comment. Um, Also, you could indicate my youth has really applied themselves pertaining to this milestone and they've completed it, for example, before the goal date, something like that, whatever the comment may be. One thing to remember about when you're putting in comments is that your youth and the child and care worker can see these comments. And conversely, if your youth is logged in and they want to enter a comment relating to a milestone, they have the option to choose whether or not you can see that comment or not. The child and care worker can see the comment, but you may or may not be able to see that comment. And we've done that so that the youth can feel comfortable, perhaps if they want to indicate something that they might feel a little bit self-conscious about you seeing it, and they might be more comfortable with just your child and care worker seeing it. So that's the reason that we've done it that way. All right. After you've entered your comment, you can just click add comments. I won't bother adding it now. But once you're all done, you can click to return to the milestones, just like that. All right, so that is the basic overview of just getting into the system, adding one or more youth into your profile, and reviewing the milestones at the left-hand side. So what we suggest is, if it's your first time logging in, to click into the various categories, have a look at some of the milestones that are there, and then get together with your child and care worker, perhaps at your next plan of care, to discuss perhaps the top 3 or 5 milestones that you may want to begin with trying to accomplish or achieve. All right, so that's just a basic getting started video. and there'll be some more details coming in some of the other videos. Thank you.